Hi guys, and welcome to the latest video. Today I'm going to make quite a short video about, as you can see, sourcing inventory. More specifically, we're going to talk about the pros and cons of bulk buys versus thrifting. I was just thinking about this because it's a question that can come up quite often. Which way do you go? So I thought I'd come up with what, in my opinion, are the pros and cons of buying in bulk or thrifting. Now, by thrifting, I mean going to charity shops, car booths, etc., like traditional. So firstly, we'll go through the bulk buying and hauls. So buying stock in large amounts. We'll go through the pros and cons of that. So first, we'll go through the pros. There are no particular order, so and I may not have thought of everything, so if you guys come up with any ideas, please leave them in the comment section. For me, pros of buying in bulk, in my experience, are there's time efficiency. There's no need for you to spend time daily going out looking for inventory to sell, which has been immense. We always talk about one of the beauties of being your own boss is actually having control of your time. However, if you have all that time, you've got to be able to manage it, and I personally was finding I was out looking for stock far too often. I personally prefer the current situation where I don't have to go out if I don't want to, because I've got enough inventory which I can buy, so there's no, because I don't have to go out daily. Secondly, cheaper prices buying in lots / bulk stands to reason. If you're going to be buying in large amounts, your per unit cost is going to be cheaper than when you're buying individual items. So that's a bit of common sense, really. So if you go out and you're buying in bulk, obviously you have to make sure you do your due diligence and make sure you're getting a good deal. And oftentimes you'll find that because you're buying in bulk, your per unit price, whatever you're buying, it could be someone's collection of video games, it could be someone's collection of vintage figures or whatever, or it could just be new stock. Whatever you're doing, you can work out per unit price. Third reason, there's more chance of creating sustainable contacts and replenishable products. Now, for me, this is huge. When you're dealing in bulk buys, you will inevitably have sources where you get your bulk buys from. So that is relationship building, which I think is a great thing, because people then keep you in mind for when they get more stock, because they're like, oh, I can go to that guy and sell him in bulk because he buys in bulk. And replenishable products, again, it's a game changer. You only have to do the work once, and assuming the listing is good and it's what people want, people can just buy and buy and buy and buy. We've got listings of radio control car parts, for example, that have sold many times over. Each time we get a sale, I don't have to then worry about replacing that listing. I find it's better for cash flow, as you're not spending daily on stock. So again, because you're not going out buying again, so it's a bit of overlap on not having to spend time daily hunting for inventory. One of the other benefits is you're not spending money daily buying inventory. You can buy it in bulk, it's done, and then you can actually take care of your cash flow a little bit better. And also, finally, my fifth pro for buying in bulk is there is a barrier to entry, because you obviously need to have cash available, because it's not good. So therefore, it's not going to be open to everybody, because not everyone has the cash available to buy in bulk. Because obviously, if you buy in bulk, you need to have cash available. So less competition is always it makes things easier, because then you have access to markets that others don't, because you might have the cash available to buy in bulk. Now let's move on to the cons of buying in bulk. The first one I thought of was you need the space to be able to store and process large quantities of items. You can't underestimate this. It's all very well being able to get hold of a massive lot of stock and feeling great about it, but if you don't have the room to be able to store and critically to process it, you're going to just end up hoarding the stuff, because you may have enough stock space to store the stock, but storing stock is very different from being able to store and process, because you do need physical space to work within. It's no good you bringing home pallets of stock from somewhere, filling up your shed or your conservatory or whatever, and then not have any room to maneuver, because you need to be able to check, test, clean items, photograph items, and obviously then store them separate from the unlisted stuff. So that's really important, and not everyone has enough space available, so that is obviously a big con that's going to cut people out. Access to larger amounts of cash to be able to buy in bulk. Again, we mentioned this as a pro, and it's now a con on this side, because obviously not everyone will have the larger amounts of cash available to be able to buy in bulk, so it's going to again cut you out if you don't have that. Another con was you do need the time and manpower to be able to process and list the stock for sale. Buying it, having the space to process it is no good if you don't have the manpower and the time available to do it. So you've got to be careful what you take on. You might come across an amazing deal, but if it's so vast and you're working on your own, do you have the ability to cope with that stress and that volume? Are you able to get someone to help you, etc.? You have to work on that. Another con is discipline. There's no regular sourcing fix. If you filled up your warehouse or your stock room with stock from these big bulk buys, you're gonna have to be disciplined to not go out and then still buy the one-offs that we all crave. You don't get your sourcing fix, so you have to be disciplined with that. Or if you do buy those one-offs, you might find that either they get lost in your inventory or sit there for ages, or you're listing the one-offs at the detriment of all the money you've spent on the bulk stock. And the final con I came up with is it's high risk if/when you make a bad bulk buy. Just because you're buying in bulk, it doesn't always mean you're going to get a good deal. Not all people that are selling their collections are going to sell you them dirt cheap just because you're buying in bulk. Some people will ask for a lot of money, and if you end up paying too much, then you'll have tied up a bunch of cash in what's not a great deal. It will happen eventually on a long enough timeline. It doesn't matter how good you are, eventually you'll make a bad buy, so you have to be prepared for that. So moving on, next we're going to talk about the same thing with thrifting. So we're talking about here people going to charity shops, car boot sales, auctions, so your more traditional sourcing method. So again, we'll go through the pros first. First pro that came to my mind was there's no barrier to entry. You don't have to be in the trade. There's no special things that you need. So for example, you could just walk into any car boot, into any charity shop. Simple way of sourcing. There's no barrier to entry. You can just start, and it's often 99.99% most people that start on their own business to sell stuff online will end up doing something like charity shops, car boots and auctions. That's what I did, and because there's no barrier to entry, just go ahead and do it. Very little cash needed is the second pro. You don't need a lot of money. 50 pence can turn into a good profit. Oftentimes you will see people sharing pickups that have cost them very little, that have turned out to be really great margins. So that's another good thing. It's a cheap way to learn about products and niches. Because you're out there, you're going to see all kinds of items. It's not going to cost you much to buy those items in general, so it's a great way of learning. That's what I thought. Fourth item, thrill of the hunt. We all enjoy going out there, finding these unique items, and it gives you a buzz when you pick up something really cheap and has a lot of value, and it's a treasure hunt, isn't it? And my final pro was it's low risk, mistakes are not costly. So if you buy something, the chances are, obviously you're going to be buying like a one-off item, or you're going to be buying something, it might only have cost you 50 pence or a pound. If it turns out to be a dud, a purchase for whatever reason, whether it's got no value, whether it's damaged or whatever, it's not really costly. Now let's go to the cons of thrifting / traditional sourcing. It's highly competitive due to having no barrier to entry. So because anyone can walk into a charity shop, auction, car boot sale, it is competitive. So it means you have to work that much harder to be able to get decent finds, and that's because obviously a lot of people are doing it, because it's the first go-to thing. A lot of people enjoy doing it, so you have to be on your game. There's still plenty of stock out there. You see many people sharing pickups regularly like clockwork. The stuff is out there, you just have to want it enough in a competitive market to get it. Second con, it's time intensive, because you will need to be sourcing pretty much daily in a lot of cases, because you're going to be going out, and often you're going to just be finding these one-off items they sell that you have to go out and replace, and that is the third point actually. Is inefficient, because you're unlikely to find many replenishable items, if any at all. So every time something sells, you're gonna have to go out and find it. The fourth con is it's difficult to build sustain a niche. A bit of a typing error there, guys. Difficult to sustain or build a niche due to being at the mercy of what is available out there. So the other con of sourcing, thrifting the traditional method is you don't know what you're going to find when you go to a charity shop or a car boot or an auction. It's on the day. At an auction, you don't know what's going to be there until you see the catalogue. A car boot, charity shop, you don't know what's going to be there until you're there. So it's very difficult to build and sustain a niche. That's what I was actually trying to write in that con, so I do apologize for that. And my final con is kind of a logistical one, where you may have to travel to different areas to source better inventory. Now that's a con, because obviously it takes up more time, more cost in travel to be able to source better things, because you might find your local area is devoid of the quality of goods you're looking for, so you have to travel further afield. Whereas if you've got a contact, or if you're buying in bulk, chances are you'll have some kind of a relationship with that contact, and items are normally shipped to you. There's a lot less traveling about. So that would be my final con. So I mean, I hope that's been kind of useful to you guys. I went through in no particular order with the pros and cons, it's just as they came to my mind. I'm sure there's some I've missed out, so I'd be really grateful if you guys can put your input into the comment section. Let me know what you think the pros and cons are, what suits you better. Most of us will do a bit of both. The answer's always somewhere in between, as they say, so there's no one right or wrong way of doing things. So obviously you have to kind of judge what works for you in your particular situation, but I thought it would be an interesting video to make. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up, and leave a comment in the comment section. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching.